Welcome to episode 497 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Ian Hilton, and this is a La Masia Update Summer 2023 edition. Looking at the list, this might be the most Barça Atletic heavy version of this La Masia Update in the 4 years that I've been doing this, which does make it pretty exciting, because that means that a lot of the names I'm going to throw at you are really just one step away, or not to say anyone excited for injuries. Of course, with Ronald Araujo, that being one that I wouldn't want to see at all, but regardless, there is one or two injuries away from maybe seeing some of these players in the first team. The reputation that some people on the internet seem to want to give Xavi about not trusting in young players, he certainly has his finger on the pulse of the players with the highest ceilings in the academy, regardless of what level of the academy they're in, because a lot of the players who are also on this list, regardless of whether they're with the U19s or the U18s, have been in first team training or have played in a friendly with the first team before. And speaking of having your pulse on something, I have my finger on the pulse of these videos, and I know that the Academy updates either have no one watching, or I get a ton of people who don't subscribe to watch if the algorithm decrees it. And so I can get more people to watch. Please give this video a like and subscribe so I can keep making more. All right, back to it. For all the talk of Xavi not trusting youth, his squad against Getafe had 5 players 20 or under, all 5 of which who played. Don't underestimate that Balde, Pedri, Gabi, Ansu, and Lamine Yamal are all still so young in the grand scheme of things, because they were all added to the first team dynamic 1 year after another. Ansu, then Pedri, then Gabi, then Balde, now seemingly Lamine Yamal. That's pretty absurd to successfully add a teenager to your team 1 year after another, after another, after another, after another. I know Pedri isn't from the academy, but he was 16 when he first joined the club and jumped right into the first team. But that doesn't make his age any different than it currently is. And Vitor Roque, all of 18 years himself, is coming in January. If Barca are actually serious about even Fresneda, who I'm not so sure they are, that would be another 18-year-old. Much of Barcelona's future is already in the first team, so just take a deep breath before you start yelling about why these next names are not going to get their opportunities under Xavi. So with so much youth already in the first team and Lamine Yamal already the newest kid on the block, you may not see many of these players in the first team this season, but some will be on the bench, I think, occasionally. For the ones already around the first team dynamic, left back Alex Valle being the exception because he was loaned out to Levante, I'm not going to spend time highlighting the players who you may already be familiar with for their time around the first team in preseason and last season. Lamine Yamal, Alex Garrido, Marc Casado, Fermin Lopez, Angel Alarcon, and I am throwing Mika Faye in there too. I have a feeling that I'll be talking about all of those players outside of these La Masia updates, so that's why I'm mentioning them there at the top and not really delving too much into them. Usually I just count down 5 going down the ranks from Barça Atletic to the U16s, and I usually don't have to stay with Barça Atletic for long because most of those players won't be getting the promotion over the prodigy coming directly from the U19s. But this season, Rafa Marquez has a really young squad, and based on preseason lineups, he'll be pulling regularly from players that will likely be registered at the U19 or even U18 level. So starting with players that I think will be regulars with Barça Atletic, let's start with the new recruit, Noah Darvich. Darvich is a 16-year-old attacking midfielder who, due to his left foot and coming from a German academy that isn't Bayern, he's already drawn comparisons to Mesut Ozil. Darvich is a bit taller than Ozil, and comparing players at 16 is a waste of time. So it'll be up to Kool-Aids to get to know the Freiburg product on their own. He plays for Germany's U16s and U17s, and the fact that he comes in as a left-footed high-interior midfielder, the exact position that Xavi is asking for with Bernardo Silva, Darvich, who is also one of the standout players alongside Lamine Yamal at the U17 Euros, could be a year of getting his feet wet in Spain away from the first team. He was a huge signing for the academy, but his potential and international reputation, even at his age, means that if he misses out on Barca's first team, he will still likely command a transfer fee from elsewhere. In the last preseason friendly with Barça Atletic, he played 45 minutes and was key to both first-half goals against Lleida Esportivo. I expect him to be a regular starter for Rafa Marquez. It both benefits the club to play him, and he's already probably good enough to be the starter for Barça Atletic. Getting plenty of starts next to him based on Fermin Lopez being on the first team, Unai Hernandez is a name you might already know after he went to Japan for the Vissel Kobe friendly a few months ago. He's a right-footed attacking midfielder, 18 years of age, and in his second season with Barcelona. He was with Juvenil A last season, having signed from Girona's youth academy, and he did make his Barça Atletic debut while also being a regular in the UEFA Youth League. If he can continue to learn how to defend, his innate instincts as a dribbler and a passer will make him a solid professional, regardless of whatever first team that winds up being. The next 3 will likely be registered with the U19s, but play regularly for Barça Atletic. First up is Marc G, the center forward who also traveled with the first team against Vissel Kobe. He's still just 17, but he's already grown quite into his body. and that's why he seems to have skyrocketed past others in his same age group like Hugo Alba, who plays the same position. Guille is a local product who has come up through the academy and who will likely be an important figure for Spain when they begin to qualify for the U17 Euros in October. His expected goals this season should depend on where he plays. If he spends 80% of his time with the U19s, I'd hope to see 10 to 12 goals at that level, with maybe 1 or 2 with Barça Atletic. If he's more with Rafa Marquez, then I think 4 to 5 is a fair ask for a 17-year-old playing in the 3rd division in Spain. This year is all about continuing to feel comfortable in his new body and continuing to put some balls in the net. I'm not putting any other expectations on G whatsoever this year. At the moment, Barça Atletic has 3 registered center backs and 1 registered right back, so Pau Cubarsí and Hector Fort are likely part of the picture from the jump. They could make some other signings. I mean, if center backs Valle and Gerard Martin, left back Edu Sanchez, and right back Trilli, if they all hadn't signed, and they're also 19, 21, 18, and 20 respectively, by the way, but if those 4 didn't sign, Barça Atletic would have had 1 defender, Guille Fernandez, in their squad. So yes, 17-year-old right back Hector Fort, who has trained with the first team double-digit times already in his career, and 16-year-old center back Pau Cubarsí will both be with Rafa Marquez regularly this season. They both featured heavily in the last friendly before the start of the season, and they're also both regulars with the Spain U17s. To put it bluntly, like Balde at left back since I started doing these, Fort has the best chance to be the next right back from the academy. And while there's more competition, Cubarsí is a center back with the best chance to come from the academy. Between Barça Atletic, the U19s, and the UEFA Youth League, they will both have their opportunities to play a lot this season, which is what's most important at this point. They are both pretty strong for their ages, and in the case of Fort, I'm interested to see what kind of right back he'll be. His positional play sense is very high, as is his technical ability, but I'm not sure if he's going to be that speedy, overlapping fullback type that Balde is. Instead, he may be a good crosser who gets forward on occasion, but is more comfortable helping with build-up from a defensive position. At the lower levels, he kind of gets to be everything, so how he adapts against tougher competition and learns to fill more of a team role will be essential. Cubarsí is just an all-around terrific center back product. He does everything, and I mean everything, at a level higher than other 16-year-old center backs, and his challenge will be continuing to do those things as he gets older and the competition gets harder. Now, moving to the U19s, but sticking with some names you already know. Pau Prim, who Kool-Aid's got to see in Japan against Vissel Kobe, is arguably the best defensive midfielder prospect in the academy. The 17-year-old is almost opposite the 19-year-old Casado in what their elite skills at the top level may be at the defensive midfield position. Prim isn't a top tackler yet the way that Casado is, but Prim's touch and quick decision-making is what I think may be at a higher level than Casado at the same ages. Prim has a long ball in there that is the kind of ball that gets you practicing with the first team, which he's done on occasion, but the rest of it, the physical stuff, is what will get Prim in the first team down the road. At 17, there is plenty of time for him to get there, so we have to be patient. And the last member of the Japan travel party was Danny Rodriguez, who, like Prim, I expect to get some Barça Atletic call-ups, but regularly be playing with the U19s. Rodriguez just turned 18 and is an inverting left-footed right winger who I expect to be the primary attacking force for the U19s and likely the UEFA Youth League squad. He arrived from Real Sociedad in 2020, and the only question for him will be whether he's actually a right winger at the top level. He can go by other teenagers, but he doesn't have that natural burst needed at the top level on the wing. So will he need to learn to play in the midfield? Either way, those questions still don't need to be answered fully for a teenager who's just 18. He can keep doing the things he does at the levels he's at, keep playing well and gaining confidence, and worry about the other hard questions later. Goalkeepers are always tough, but they should still be on the list. 17-year-old Miami-born Diego Cochin is looking to be the regular starter for the U19s this season, but who knows with the UEFA Youth League and the other options there. While eligible for the U.S. or Peru at international level, he's made appearances for the U.S. U17s, but he also has plenty of time to figure that out in the future. We just watched Arnau Tenas go from promising goalkeeper to just not the right timing for the first team, but with Ter Stegen's age, a 17-year-old goalkeeper is the right age range for some hope for the future. Maybe they get some minutes down the road. Back up the field with the U19s is Arnau Pradas, 17-year-old attacking left-footed left winger, who has also played on the right as well. And I'm not sure which is his best side, but my guess is he's going to be a professional on the left. He's much more of a natural winger than Danny Rodriguez, and Pradas has quite a bit more scoring touch as well. He's a local product from Manresa, who's basically been with Barca since the beginning, and he's always been one of the better attackers at his age group the whole way through. Last but not least with the U19s, João Mendes is not on this list because of his first team potential, but because of the nature of his signing. The 18-year-old left-footed right winger is the son of Ronaldinho, and he arrived at the U18s last March, having played with Cruceiro's youth academy before that. But once he turned 18, and obviously his father had some heavy influence in this, he moved to Barcelona. Now, was he the biggest Brazilian prospect? No. But unlike those big Brazilian talents, he came without a transfer fee, and I would say just let the kid be himself, even if his arrival was based on nepotism. Even if he sniffs the first team, he does look at least like he's the level of the U19s playing alongside other 18-year-olds, meaning he's right where he needs to be become a professional footballer, regardless of who his father is. It's unlikely he'll be doing that for FC Barcelona, but that's the case with everybody else on this list too, and we don't care who their fathers are. As I said, nepotism, it exists, of course, it's frustrating, but those critical of a then 17-year-old were putting their attention on the wrong part of the problem. Let's head down to the U18s now, starting with the other goalkeeper who's been on this list for a while, the other 17-year-old keeper in Aaron Jakubashvili. It's rough that Barca's two biggest goalkeeping prospects are the same age. I mean, rough for them, but I think it'll be a good thing to have Kochin be a regular starter for the U19s and Jakubashvili be the regular starter for the U18s. The level between the U18s and the U19s isn't so great that the better of the keeper won't get his chances when the time comes. I would also expect the Hungarian to get a game or two in the UEFA Youth League, and I will be counting to see how many games and at what levels these different goalkeepers are playing at this season. Let's take stock at this point in the program, because other than João Mendes, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned every single name you've heard outside of the new signings in updates before. So these next two names are quite exciting, because being that they are 16 and 15 respectively and playing with the U15s and U16s, they weren't on my radar yet. But due to the fact that Marc Bernal, who could be registered with the U18s this season, just started for Barça Atletic in their latest friendly. Now, he has to be on the radar. The 16-year-old defensive midfielder is another local product, left-footed, and still quite the blank slate to me. Honestly, I've only seen him once, so I can't draw any sweeping conclusions just yet. He's the reason why I do this in both the summer and January. A few months can change a lot for a player. He is Cadet A age, but as I said, he could be registered with the U18s, he could feature heavily for the U19s, and he's already playing with Barça Atletic. He'll most likely be in the January update as we learn some more. What's crazier than 16? 15, which is the age of Guille Fernandez. His first big academy is Espanyol, but he moved to La Masia almost right away in 2018. He's an attacking midfielder that played at 14 with the U16s last season. Now this season, he'll likely be playing with the U18s at 15, which is pretty nuts. He is 15, so all I can say about him is that from what I've seen, he is way ahead of his age group in almost every discernible midfield attribute that you'd possibly want. His 2 goals and 2 assists in 4 preseason games start to tell the story, but it's more than that. His technical ability, vision, timing, the whole package. He is better than the other players in his age group. It's hard to know just how special he is, but with Lamine Yamal at 16 getting his chances, it's already time to start paying attention to Guille Fernandez, who is still playing for Spain's U15s. With a kid this young, I have no idea when or where he'll be making his next jump, but I will say that skipping age levels so quickly is usually a good indication that the club knows what they have on their hands. Certainly another one, and maybe from this video in terms of new names, the biggest one to watch. The last category is the U16s. Long are the days when I would do these videos and need to reach down to the U16s for first team potential. That was back when Casado, Xavi Simons, Jorge Alastui, Fermin Lopez, Balde, and Diego Almeida were down there. 2018, by the way, I checked my notes to fill out these updates. There were enough talents from Barça Atletic, who has gotten considerably younger in the last few seasons, down to the U19s and U18s. But since we're in the tradition of the quick pit stop to Cadet A, the 3 names are Madu Murcia, Tony Fernandez, and Pedro Rodriguez. Murcia is a Mali-born center back who has been in Spain most of his life and was recruited in 2015 from Manresa to join Barca's academy. He's left-footed, and at 15, his physical tools are way beyond the others in his age range. Tony Fernandez, cousin of Guille, is a center forward, and he's also 15. He's left-footed, and along with Guille, arrived from Espanyol. He's been the main striker for the Spain U15s, and the top goal scorer at their age level always deserves some mention. At the Cadet A level, the midfielder that his teammates look to is the one that you mentioned, and while Pedro Rodriguez shares a name with the Barcelona great, the 15-year-old plays a different position. But again, he's so far been the one to watch from that U16 midfield. Again, the name, Pedro Rodriguez. Credit to Arsene KVEFCB on social media, who is definitely worth a follow, for helping with the honorable mentions of players that I might have missed. So for January, you may be able to look out for any of the following: center back Alvaro Cortez for the U19s, left back Nico Takahashi from the U19s, center back Andrea Natali from the U18s, center forward Oscar Gistau from the U18s, center midfielder Jim Junient from the U18s, left winger Pedro Fernandez from the U16s, and right back Neil Teixeira from the U16s. So there it is, the La Masia summer update. I do expect a bunch of repeat names come January, because there are a bunch of new players in the academy as well, but that's the mystery of it. Even the can't-miss kids miss sometimes, and you never know which youngster will trust next. To close out the show, I just want to do a quick Barça Femení at the Women's World Cup update. Fidelina Rolfo has played through injury throughout the tournament, and yet she was still a major reason why Sweden got all the way to the semifinals, where they fell 2-1 to Spain, courtesy Real Madrid's Olga Carmona's 89th minute winner. Spain will meet England in the final on Sunday, depending on your time zone, and it will feature a ton of Barça Femení players on both sides. Keira Walsh and Lucy Bronze for England, and for Spain, it's Cata Cole, Irene Paredes, Onabatye, Leia Codina, Aitana Bonmati, Alexia Putellas, Mariona, Salma Perriello, and Maria Perez. That's 11 total players that could potentially feature in the final, and I do expect to see all but Maria Perez play. Cata Cole is taking the starting spot as the tournament has gone along, and Codina is also starting next to Paredes. Ona might be named the right back of the tournament, and Aitana is Aitana. Alexia doesn't look fit, but she did start against Sweden and did some Alexia things. Mariona has had an up-and-down tournament, but she was huge against the Netherlands in the quarterfinal. Kerry Walsh, on the other side, went down with that really scary injury earlier in the tournament, but either through sheer force of will or good fortune, she's looked okay since. And Salma, who people forget is still just 19, she has had both the winning goal in extra time against the Netherlands and the first goal against Sweden in the semis. With JC off to Manchester United, Salma looks ready for a bigger role with the Femení this season if they don't bring in anyone new. As for who I want to or think will win, it's tough, isn't it? You know the story. The Spanish Federation is already doubling down on the fact that manager Jorge Vilda didn't need the players that chose to sit out, including Patri, Mapi Leon, and Claudia Pina. They have justified their actions and their terrible treatment of their players, that being the Spanish Federation. And I think it's hyperbole that Spain winning will set women's football back. But regardless of what happens, I'll support the Barça Femení players no matter how they handle the situation moving forward. I hope that they can use what will be a huge platform if they win to actually get the change they want. But it's hard to be optimistic about that, obviously. And if Spain lose, then yes, social media will be flooded with English snobbery, but I'll still be happy for Walsh and Lucy Bronze. I think it's a win-win, obviously, in the Barca book. As for the men's team, they are playing Cadiz on Sunday, and they will be without Ronald Araujo for the next month, and I'll definitely be talking about that and figuring that out against Cadiz first, and then Villarreal the following week. That review for Cadiz will not be coming out until Monday, and then it'll probably be one more show next week because I'll be traveling later in the week. Okay, so hope you like the show, and as always, until next time, Forza Barca.